if the murder drones were charged for their crimes. While V from Murder Drones has redeemed herself as seen in episode 6 Dead End, she still was responsible for many heinous acts throughout the show. So today I'm going to see how many charges would be filed in the real world and how much time they would actually serve. In this episode, V is seen murdering a father in front of his family. Now normally in Sydney, Australia, which we will be using to refer to the penalties as Glitch is based in Australia, V would be charged with intentional first-degree murder. V would be charged with intentional first-degree murder, which normally carries a maximum sentence of life, which can range between 20 and 30 years, but due to the sheer nature of how the crime was committed, in that it was performed in a particularly immoral way, and it was in front of minors no less, which is known to add time to the sentence because committing crimes in front of children can mentally scar them. V would face a life sentence without the possibility of parole and would likely receive the death penalty due to the graphic context. Another time where one of the murder drones could be charged was also in episode 1, The Pilot, where we can see Serial Designation N killing dozens of worker drones. Okay, maybe not dozens, but he does kill up to 5 workers on screen and almost kills Uzi. So as per Australian law, N would face up to 5 counts of first degree murder, carrying 5 life sentences, which equates to 150 years in prison without the possibility of parole. That's not even including his attempted murder of Uzi, which would also carry a maximum of an additional life sentence, bringing his time behind bars to a maximum of 180 years in prison, and would also be eligible for the death penalty. Also in the pilot episode, J and V attempt to kill both Uzi and N, which would both give them each a single count of attempted murder, giving them a life sentence of 20 years behind bars each. In Murder Drones episode 3, The Promining, V shoots Doll in the back of the head. While not killing her, she does still try to harm her with intent to kill, adding yet another charge of attempted murder, which carries a life sentence of 20 years behind bars. Now, even though the thumbnail has a murder drone on it, we will also be including Uzi as part of this discussion. In episode 4, Cabin Fever, Uzi, after being taken over by the Solver, brutally murders over 10 murder drones, showing no mercy. This would easily give her 10 counts of murder in the second degree, which, if you don't know, murder comes in 3 degrees. Third degree murder means that the murder was meant to harm the victim and did not intend to kill them, but ends up killing them. Second degree murder is when the person kills in the moment. And finally, the most serious first degree murder is homicide that was intentional and premeditated and thought out well in advance of the killing. Uzi having 10 counts of murder means she would be sentenced to over 100 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The reason it's less than you may have expected is because second degree murder gives you less time than the first degree. Because second means you killed, but it was not premeditated, which is apparent that Uzi did not plan out these killings, because she regretted it shortly thereafter. Now it's finally time to talk about undoubtedly the worst criminal the show has ever seen. In episode 5, Home, Sin kidnaps and tries to execute N while he was strapped to a chair. Now in Australia there are 2 separate sentences for kidnappings, one being a 14-year sentence if it was a basic offense, but in situations that were out of aggravation carries a sentence up to 20 years behind bars, which in Sin's case would be classified under aggravated, giving her a 20-year sentence for kidnapping. But we're not done yet. In the same episode, V is also shown to be kidnapped, which would only add an additional 20 years, coming out to 40 years just for kidnapping alone. While 40 years is a long time, it's nothing compared to the maximum penalty Sin could face. Because in episode 6 Dead End, Tessa, who is a technician for JC Jensen in space, reveals that Sin was responsible for not only murdering every living being on Earth, but also blew up the planet itself. For potential fines, if we go based off of the best estimates for the price of planet Earth, Sin would face up to $5 quadrillion in damages. For a scale, that is 5 with 15 zeros behind it. But fines would be the least of Sin's worries, as she would still face a large amount of punishment for the murders. If we consider Earth in real life has roughly 8 billion people living on it, Sin's maximum sentence would be over 240 trillion years in prison. And that's not even counting the millions of animal lives she took. If we do include that, just harming an animal without killing them in Australia can result up to a fine of $20,000 and or 1 year of imprisonment. Just for one count. Planet Earth has over 20 billion animals living on it, so that would easily be an additional 20 billion years in the slammer, easily gaining the largest sentence of all time. The characters in Murder Drones are pretty notorious for their crimes, but never seek any punishment or penalties. But if they were to be charged, they would face some serious time behind bars. That's not even including the sheer amount of fines that would easily go well into the trillions. Well, there you have it, if characters in Murder Drones were actually convicted and charged for their crimes. I do Murder Drones videos on this channel. Like this video if you enjoyed, check out some other videos of mine, and subscribe.